The city of Oakland is facing a projected $177 million budget deficit, and some worry that will mean cuts to programs that help the unhoused. The numbers show the homeless population in Oakland grew by 9% over the past 2 years, while other nearby cities in Alameda County saw a drop in homelessness. Berkeley was down 20%, Emeryville saw a 59% drop, and Piedmont, they were down 93%. Now, that's according to the county's point-in-time count.
They are not taking care of the problem. They are contributing to the problem. And this is a problem. This budget cut is only going to make it worse.
A group rallied outside Oakland City Hall today demanding city leaders be held accountable. The city has received millions in state funds to help deal with the homeless crisis, but demonstrators say they've not seen any results. So we reached out to Mayor Sheng Tao for comment on this, but have not heard back. And people living in the city's Fruitvale neighborhood are worried about a growing encampment there. Police say the trash, abandoned cars, and other debris are just too much to deal with, and they can no longer walk there. The area in question is on East 8th Street between Fruitvale and 34th Avenues. It began with a single RV parked along the sidewalk and has grown since. Neighbors told our Da Lin the sidewalk is now blocked off, and there was recently an incident involving an axe.
Neighbors say they can no longer use the sidewalk on East 8th Street near Fruitvale Avenue. A car is parked on the sidewalk. There's also a bike and a bunch of other stuff. They walk into the street to get in and out of their homes.
The kids who are walking to school have to get off the sidewalk because they can't go through. It's the only sidewalk since there isn't one on the other side.
Through a translator, Hector Hugo worries a car could hit his 2 little girls. Neighbors and business owners say it started out with one RV a few months ago, but it got bigger. A second RV and a couple of cars have since camped out on East 8th Street. They worry it could turn into East 9th Street, which is filled with RVs and people living in cars.
And walking through there, it's a death trap. And when it starts going dark, forget about it. There's no light there. It makes it even more dangerous.
Neighbors say this is the other route if families don't want to walk into the street, but the alleyway is filled with trash.
I think on Thursday, we went past that tipping point.
Business owner Everardo Rodriguez says on Thursday, someone vandalized a stolen or abandoned car on the street. Cell phone footage also showed a person using a rock to break the driver's side window. A short time later, Everardo says a homeless man walked out with what appeared to be an axe in his right hand to confront someone.
I'm beyond frustrated. I'm beyond disappointed. I'm beyond angry.
They say they called the city multiple times, but no one has cleared the encampment.
It goes beyond atrocious. It's deliberate. How can the city not act?
I asked the RV dwellers why block the sidewalk. One man says he'll tell his uncle to clean it up.
I'll make sure that gets cleared up, you know. But no, you're right, absolutely. Kids need to walk by for their safety.
The man says the RV dwellers don't want to cause problems, but they have nowhere to go.
It's not the homeless people bringing the trash, destroying these businesses, abandoning all these cars.
Councilman Noel Gallo met with Everardo about the concerns. He says the city is working to clear the RVs on both East 8th and 9th Streets.
That's on the clear list. They got to go. This guy that started, you know, he's from Missouri, Canada, all over the country coming into Oakland because we're allowing that behavior to happen. This shouldn't be on that street. There should not be because it's illegal to block the sidewalk.
Everardo and the neighbors hope the city will act fast.
This cannot continue because it puts our life in jeopardy.
A lot of neighbors tell me they would like to move, but they've lived here for a long time, and they say they simply cannot afford to leave. So now they're waiting for the city to do something about this.
Authorities say illegal dumping costs the city tens of millions of dollars each year. Now, earlier this month, a statewide conference was held in Oakland focusing on ways to limit the problem. Experts gave presentations focusing on a so-called 3 E's strategy, which includes education, eradication, and enforcement. It's been just over a year since Oakland's Wood Street encampment was completely cleared out. Coming up, how people who live there say they are struggling since being kicked out. And he's been serving in the heart of Oakland for 4 decades. Bishop Bob Jackson joins us live to talk about some possible solutions for the city of Oakland. Welcome back to our conversation on homelessness in Oakland. Now, we know it's something that can manifest into other issues in the community. For example, take this unusual hanging stop sign at the intersection of East 12th Street and 16th Avenue in the San Antonio district. Now, there used to be stoplights there, but after months of malfunctions and outages, the city removed them. The city says people kept stealing copper from the electrical boxes or even stealing the power. We saw someone running a wire from one box to an RV parked on the street, and neighbors say the city's inability to clear a homeless encampment is leading to safety problems like this.
It's just telling us that the city is giving up on us.
We got to stop just putting Band-Aids on things. Although, you know, a Band-Aid's better than bleeding out.
All right, well, the city says the kind of awkward stop signs are temporary, but there's no timeline on when they can put the traffic lights back up. And speaking of encampments, it's been just over a year since Oakland and Caltrans cleared out the one at Wood Street. At one point, more than 200 people lived there under the MacArthur Maze. Firefighters called it a hazard. There had been a number of fires there, but the people who lived in the camp said it gave them a sense of security. Some told us their lives have only gotten worse since Wood Street was cleared out.
Since then, I've been arrested. My addiction has picked back up. It's embarrassing to say, but being transparent helps me along the way.
I didn't choose this. Some people have. It was not my choice. I would love to pay rent. I really would.
Now, when the camp closed last year, the city said 39 people accepted shelter at cabins and 11 moved to a safe RV program. Joining me live now to talk about the situation in Oakland is Bishop Bob Jackson of Acts Full Gospel Church. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So what do you make of the homeless crisis in Oakland? You know, it's interesting. We've spoken to a number of homeless advocates here in San Francisco, across the Bay Area, and they often blame the lack of affordable housing in their cities for the crisis. Do you think that that's the reason for the crisis in Oakland?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with a lot of it. Of course, the housing, the homes, and also the rental of the properties are sky high. The rents here in the city of Oakland, there is some indication that the rents are beginning to drop, although they haven't dropped a lot, but they have been dropping lately. So that's kind of a good sign for homelessness. And so we just have to talk to the landowners and the landlords about what can they do about trying to lower the rent at times like this when we have so many people who need housing and are homeless. And some of them are working, they have jobs and all, but still can't afford the rents for these apartments units that are vacant right now.
Now, we did cover the sweep of the Wood Street encampment last year. Most of the residents there simply moved to either another part of the town or placed in shelters, but some are still out on the streets. So should the city have done more to take care of those residents?
Well, I think so, since the city was so concerned about homelessness, and they went online to say that, Oakland is a place for homeless people. Come, we'll take care of you. We'll be a sanctuary city for you, et cetera, et cetera. But they never took the time to figure out what we're going to do when we have the people responding and actually coming to Oakland. You can see in Alameda County, they don't really go to the other cities in Alameda County. They seem to come to Oakland, and they find that they could live here. And I think it's great. We have a lot of property still vacant, especially with Alameda County. There's a lot of buildings that are vacant that could easily be converted into some kind of temporary shelter, temporary housing for the people. But it doesn't seem like everybody's on board with what we can do about abating the problem with homelessness. And I think that's one of the big problems. We can't seem to get county and city working together, and Port of Oakland working together to help our crisis with homelessness.
You mentioned more affordable housing needs to be made available to these individuals, but I'm curious, do you think law enforcement should also get involved?
Well, there are some people, I'm afraid, that law enforcement has to get involved because of who they are, what they're doing, et cetera. And just face it, if they're doing things that's against the law and whatnot, then it certainly ought to be dealt with, because we can't afford to allow lawlessness to go on any more than what it's doing in our city. And some of them, not all of them, but some of them are contributing to that. And I agree that law enforcement need to be on board. But I also believe that mental health, and of course I'm an advocate for the churches being on board as well, to pray with the people, to minister to the people, and then the mental health people coming in, dealing with the mentality, the mental state of the people. I think working together with a collaborative would do so much better than what we have with all the different silos that are working to try to abate a problem that's bigger than any one department by itself.
You talk a lot about people working together, either from the city, from the county, from law enforcement, all these different agencies. I'm curious, do you think the impasse there is a leadership issue or it's a communication issue? Why do you think these folks can't work together?
I think it's a territorial issue, because it's not my territory. It's not, whatever the excuses are for not working together is helping this problem to continue and even grow worse because of the failure of the leadership to say, wait a minute, it's time for us to work together. We have the resources if we work together. We have the vacant buildings that we already own. If we work together, we can abate the problem. I'm guaranteeing we can do it. But for some strange reason, coming together is more difficult than trying to deal with the problem with the homeless people.
So do you think these large sweeps like we saw last year with Wood Street are a good idea?
I only think that they cause more problem in the sense that we have people contained, or not, rather, we have them in a certain area where we know where they are. To me, which would be a great thing to have them in a location where we can help them and work with them. But when we have the law enforcement to come in to break up the encampments and stuff, then they scatter all over the place. I don't know if that helps them or not. I'm saying the resources that they actually need, the help that they actually need, now I don't know if they're able to get it because they're scattered all over the place. I think for them to be in a certain area would be a great idea. One of the places I'm looking at is the Oakland Army base, which is wide open. No one seems to be there doing too much of anything. A lot of land. We still have a lot of land in Oakland that could be utilized, to deal with homelessness and to provide some type of temporary shelter for the homeless people, and then for them to be able to get the resources that they need, the help that they need to become successful and gaining a place for them to stay. I think everybody should be entitled to have a residence with a roof over their head so they can be out of the elements and live comfortably in some type of habitation, some type of home where they can call their own. I just think that that's part of the American dream.
All right, Bishop Bob Jackson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to our conversation on homelessness in Oakland and some solutions. New affordable housing is coming to Oakland's Lake Merritt. A groundbreaking ceremony was held in April. The new development will have 91 apartment units. 25% of them will provide supportive housing for homeless families. And that money for the project comes from the infrastructure bond passed by voters in 2022. And now that Oakland has an agreement to sell its share of the Coliseum property, affordable housing is in the works there as well. The mayor announced the deal last week with the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. The group plans to buy the city's share of the property for $105 million. Now, part of this deal includes a 25% affordable housing requirement. No timeline yet, though. The Oakland A's still own half of that site.
I'm under an NDA with respect to our negotiations with the athletics, so I can't expand on that too much, but I can say that we are in healthy negotiations and they've continued.
The city still has to finish paying off its share of the 1990s renovation of the complex before any sale of its share can be finalized. That will happen sometime next year. And we'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation. We'd love to hear what you think. How should Oakland help people with nowhere to go? Are there enough services to help folks get on their feet? Post your thoughts online using the hashtag KPIX. The CBS Evening News is next on KPIX. Local news continues on our streaming service, CBS News Bay Area. I'll see you at 5.
To view more content like this, we've selected some videos we think you'll enjoy. And please make sure to like and click the link in the bottom left corner to subscribe.